Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the life you've been holding together so carefully has already started falling apart, and somehow you were the last person to see it. Her name was Alina. She was 30, living in Austin, working as a hairstylist, the kind of woman who made everyone else feel beautiful, but rarely looked at herself long enough to notice what she was hiding. She had been in a relationship for 4 years with a man named Marcus, and on the surface, everything looked steady. They laughed together, planned small trips, talked about the future in a way that sounded real. But the truth is, sometimes relationships don't break loudly. They fade slowly, in ways that are easy to ignore if you don't want to face them. And Alina didn't want to face it. Not yet. It started with small things, like how Marcus stopped touching her the same way, how his attention drifted, how conversations became shorter, less meaningful, like he was physically there, but emotionally somewhere else. And every time she noticed it, she told herself the same thing, that it was just stress, that people go through phases, that love doesn't always feel intense. But deep down, there was a quiet voice inside her that kept whispering, something is wrong, and she kept ignoring it, until one night, something shifted. She was at work, finishing up with her last client, when she saw Marcus walk past the window outside, and he wasn't alone. He was holding someone's hand, and for a second, her brain refused to process what her eyes were seeing, because sometimes the truth is so clear that your mind tries to protect you from it. She didn't run outside. She didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen, with scissors still in her hand, trying to breathe. And in that moment, everything inside her went completely quiet. Not shattered, not dramatic, just silent, like her heart had already understood what her mind was catching up to. She went home that night without saying anything, and when Marcus walked in later, smiling like nothing had happened, she looked at him differently, not with love, not even with anger, but with clarity. And that's a dangerous moment, because clarity changes everything. She asked him one simple question, "Do you still love me?" And he hesitated, just for a second. But that second was enough, because hesitation is the loudest answer when it comes to love. He started explaining, saying things like, "It's complicated, and I didn't mean for it to happen." But Alina wasn't listening anymore. Not really, because the truth had already landed. And what hurt the most wasn't just that he was with someone else. It was that he had been slowly leaving her long before she noticed. And suddenly, she realized something that changed everything. She had been fighting to keep something alive that had already ended. And that night, she didn't cry in front of him. She didn't beg. She didn't try to fix it. Instead, she did something quiet, something powerful. She went into the bedroom, packed a small bag, and left. Not because it was easy, but because staying would have been harder. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. Leaving doesn't feel strong at first. It feels terrifying. The silence in a new place, the empty mornings, the way your mind keeps replaying memories, trying to understand what you missed. Alina went through all of it. Nights where she questioned herself, mornings where she didn't recognize her own reflection, moments where she almost reached for her phone just to hear his voice again. But slowly, something started to change. Not all at once, not dramatically, just small shifts. She started spending time alone without feeling uncomfortable. She started doing things she used to love but had forgotten. She started noticing herself again. And one day, something unexpected happened. She caught her own reflection in the mirror at work, and for the first time away. She just stood there and saw herself, not as someone who was left, not as someone who wasn't enough, but as someone who had finally chosen herself. And that realization didn't come with tears. It came with a quiet sense of peace, the kind that doesn't need validation from anyone else. Months later, her life didn't look perfect. There was no sudden fairy tale ending, no dramatic new love story, but there was something real, something stronger. She felt grounded, whole, and free in a way she had never felt before. And if there's one thing this story leaves you with, it's this. Sometimes the moment you think you've lost everything is actually the moment you stop losing yourself. Because the right life doesn't begin when someone stays. It begins the moment you realize you're enough, even if they